Hi, I'm Pat Wetzel, the host and creator of Bump in the Road. This podcast is a side trip, a super short podcast where I can share what's on my mind. And what's on my mind today are some strong similarities between my path and that of my recent guest, Leah Badgley. I often say that sometimes you have to hear someone else's story in order to understand your own. Leah Badgley and I have stories that intersect where our health struggles meet our desire for adventure. Leah deals with MS. It is worsening, limiting her physical abilities, but not her spirit of adventure. You really want to listen to her story. It's pretty amazing. Like Leah, I too have had health issues. In my young adult life, I found myself dealing with myasthenia gravis, a rare neurologic disease that causes voluntary muscle weakness. That means you have trouble with little things like your vision, your ability to walk, or even breathe. During the podcast, Leah noted that choices you'll make may appear reckless to the people around you and to society, but you're thinking, I don't care, right? What's the worst thing that can happen? I could die? That quote hit me hard. For me, I had experienced a decade of zero adventure dealing with myasthenia. I had recently moved to a new town when my ex declared that he no longer loved me, was leaving town for another job in another city with his nurse du jour. I could keep the dying dog, though. Seriously? So it was. I found myself alone, sick, and utterly isolated. It was surreal. And yet, unbeknownst to me at that time, the next decade would evolve to be one of tremendous adventures. I learned to fly and traveled with my plane to Oshkosh and across country until I resettled in the Lake Tahoe area. So I went from a dead decade to a decade that demanded courage and brought great adventure. I came alive. But back to Leah. Leah's story helped me see the two opposing decades as two sides of a coin. In one decade, I experienced disability. I was living a little death, being the good wife and the good sport, trying to please everyone around me. But solo, I found a decade of adventure, spirituality, and a deep love of the outdoors. I decorated my house my way. I painted the walls in rich colors. I hung artwork that stirred my soul. And I learned to soar, literally, soar, in a high tech airplane with no engine. I flew long distances, far away from any airport. I embraced the freedom. I embraced the risk. I embraced life. Perhaps risk is relative. As Leah said, what's the worst that can happen? You die? I've faced death. I've lived a life that was its own form of death. Thanks. I'll take the risk to live any day. Why does this matter to you in your life? You have one precious life. Are you sleepwalking through it, pleasing everyone but yourself, rerunning Groundhog's Day week by week? Or perhaps you're facing a serious bump in the road. Could a bump be your wake up call, a portal into a more meaningful life? Could you embrace the change with courage and optimism? I want to thank Leah Badgley for sharing her story on the podcast because her story is mine too. We're different people, different places, different stories, but we have the same search for meaning in the face of adversity. The essence of both our stories is that you need to experience the darkness to relish the light. That's my side trip for today. Thanks. Catch you again soon.